Hey makeup friends, today we're going to be doing a comparison of the serum and the coverage foundation from The Ordinary, along with a wear test of not only their foundations, but also their new concealer. Let's do this. As always, I want to start by welcoming you back to my channel, or if you are new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. I have also tried to mix my actual curly hair with these extensions from Irresistible Me. I think I've had limited success in that, so let's not judge my frizziness too harshly, okay? Alright. Okay, really quickly, the makeup. My eyes are the NARS Claudette palette, and then on my lips I have the Vive lipstick in the shade Power Suit. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be comparing these two foundations. Now these foundations have been on the market for quite some time. I just never tried them. I don't have any excuse for it. I just never tried them. So when I saw that they had put out a concealer, when I ordered this, I thought, why not order both of the foundations, put them to the test, and see how I feel about them. So let me go ahead and give you some information on these products. So we'll start with the Serum Foundation. So this retails for $6.70 Canadian, and for that you are getting a full ounce of product, or 30 milliliters. So this claims to be vegan, it's cruelty-free, gluten-free, nut-free, alcohol-free, oil-free, and silicone-free. So it's free of an awful lot of things. It says that it has medium coverage, a lightweight feel, and that it resists creasing in fine lines. It also says that it has a semi-matte finish, and it's meant to be a long-wearing foundation. It comes in 21 shades, and I do talk about the shade naming later on in this video, but I really appreciate it because it's like number, point, another number, and then a letter that describes the undertone. So it comes in 1, 2, or 3, so fair, light, medium, and deeper. The second number shows you where in that range you are, and then you have yellow for, or Y for yellow undertone, P for pink undertone, etc. And I just find that that is very helpful and very useful. So I like the naming system. Now switching over to the coverage foundation, this one retails for $6.90 Canadian, and again you're getting 30 milliliters of product, or a full fluid ounce. This one says that it has full coverage and that it also has that semi-matte finish, and it also claims as well to resist gathering in fine lines. This one is free of all of the same products as the serum, with the exception of silicone. So there is silicone in this product. Again, this one is available in the same 21 shades, and the same numbering and naming system applies to this as it does to the serum foundation. All right, and then finally, this is the concealer. This one retails for $5.80 Canadian, and for that you are getting 8 milliliters of product. By way of comparison, the Milani Conceal and Perfect retails for about $13 Canadian, and in there you are getting 5 milliliters of product. The claims on the concealer are that it has very high coverage, that it resists collecting in the fine lines again, and again it's free of all those products with the exception of silicone. This one is available in 36 shades, and they do make a point on the website to say that if you pick up the same shade as the foundation, this one is designed to be a little bit lighter, so I do have the same shade in both of them, but when I do the swatches you can see that it is lighter by comparison to the foundations. So that's the main information on the products that I wanted to share with you. Now, as you can see in the clips that I'm going to insert, the Serum Foundation is very much runnier than the Coverage Foundation. Again, I think that plays into the whole serum idea, and it is meant to have like a very low viscosity, so that kind of tracks. So I've been putting these products to the test for a few weeks now, and I can say that I am a fan of both of the foundations. Now currently I do have the Serum Foundation on this side and the Coverage on this one. I am going to be doing a wear test. I'm going to talk about that more later on in this video, and then I will check in at the end of the day to show you how it's performed over the day. But I can say, in having tried these products out for the last couple of weeks, I am impressed with the longevity of them, and I do like both of them. I feel like both of them have that same lightweight feel to the skin, and by the end of the day, I don't have that desire to just rip it off of my skin like I do with some foundations. I do find that it's very breathable, and my skin just feels comfortable throughout the day with these products on. In terms of the concealer, I have been testing this again for a couple of weeks, and I've been comparing it. So some days when I go into the office, I will put the Ordinary on one eye and another concealer on the other eye, just to see what the difference in the coverage is and the longevity throughout the day. What I've been able to determine in doing that is that a very close dupe for this is the Overachiever concealer from Huda Beauty. So they both have the same sort of level of coverage, and by the end of the day, they both look very similar to each other under the eyes. The difference, of course, being the price point. So the Huda Beauty retails for $40 Canadian, and for that you're getting 10 milliliters of product. So to break that down price per milliliter, the Huda comes in at $4 a milliliter, and the Ordinary comes down to 73 cents. So a very drastic difference in the price point. I will also point out that in terms of the actual applicator, I prefer the one from the Ordinary. The Ordinary just comes with a really narrow nozzle here in a squeeze tube. The Huda is also a squeeze tube, but it has this like little metallic doohickey at the top. I think it's meant to be cooling and sort of help with any puffiness, but the amount of time that you put it under your eyes, it kind of loses that impact, and frankly it just becomes very messy. So I much prefer this. I can just apply it straight to my brush. I can put it on my fingertip and apply it that way. I think it's just really easy to use. So overall, I have been very impressed with all of these products, but what I want to do now is get into actually applying them, give you my thoughts on how they blend out, the coverage, all of that kind of thing. And then, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm going to do a check-in to show you how they've held up. So let's get into the application. All right, so now it's time to actually apply these products. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the serum foundation on this side of my face, the coverage over here so that we can compare the two, and then the concealer under both eyes. I'm going to wear them for at least 8 hours and then film a check-in just to show you how it's worn throughout the day. Now, in applying these foundations over the last couple of weeks, what I have discovered is that applying it with a sponge is much better than applying it with a brush, particularly the serum foundation because it is so runny. So that is how I'm going to apply it today. I do have a primer on already. I don't have the one from the Ordinary, but I used this one here from Good Molecules. This is the silicone-free priming moisturizer. These foundations are designed to be compatible with pretty much any primer, at least according to the Ordinary's website, and I have found that to be true, but when I'm doing foundation reviews, I do like to use a primer that doesn't add any sort of luminosity to my skin or claim to be ultra blurring, anything like that, so that it's not skewing the results of the foundation, so that's why I've gone in with this one. Okay. So I'm going to go in first with the serum foundation. It does suggest that you give it a bit of a shake, so I am going to do so. And then I do find, because it is so runny, that it actually works better if I just squirt it right onto my face. So although I don't normally do that, that is what I'm going to do. I just find that if I put it onto the sponge directly or onto my hand and then pick it up with a sponge, the sponge absorbs an awful lot of it, so better to just have it on my face to begin with. I am going to bump this in a bit though. That's as close as it'll get. So here we go. So I always just start off with a little bit because it does blend out quite a bit, as you can see. And then of course it's always easier to just go in and build up rather than try to take away. So as you can see, it does blend out very, very nicely, and I do think that this is actually a really good shade match. I love the shade naming system that they've used because it's just very easily comprehensible. Like I don't like for example with the Huda Beauty concealer, my shade is Cotton Candy. Huh? Like I would never look at my skin and be like, you're cotton candy. You know, like to me cotton candy, first of all, is like pink and blue. It's not whatever this skin tone is. But also like it's a meaningless shade name. It just doesn't mean anything. Whereas 1.2 YG, I'm in the light category, slightly deeper than the lightest shade with yellow undertones and golden highlights. Like I can understand that, and that just makes sense to me. I move that we have like universal shade naming for foundations and concealers because it just makes life as a consumer so much easier. All right. So that is about as blended out as it's going to get. Now before I go in with the, as I continue blending, before I go in with the coverage concealer, I just want to show the difference here. I'm going to turn my lights down as low as they'll go, and I'm going to turn off my side lights as well. There, that'll give us as accurate as I can, considering I don't have any windows, so I can't do any, unless I take you guys upstairs, which I'm just not about to do. My kids are upstairs, so no. If they see the camera, this is going to become the Bennett and Aspen show. Okay. Can you see? The viewfinder is never great. In the mirror, I can definitely see where that line is, particularly in the forehead. I will say this does have a semi-matte finish, as they claim. Like it does show a little bit of luminosity on the skin, but it's not dewy, but nor is it like a flat matte kind of effect. So I think it actually has a very natural looking finish on the skin, and I do think it looks very skin-like. Like, and it certainly is a lightweight foundation. They are not wrong in that claim. I do agree as well that it is lighter coverage. I think they claim that it's medium coverage. I think if I went in with another layer, you could achieve that and it still wouldn't look cakey. But just with that amount that I applied to begin with, I would say more in the light coverage range. I can still see, like, obviously this little guy here, this little freckle, he's pretty aggressive and he pokes through pretty much any coverage, but I can see a few of the smaller freckles that normally are covered up by foundation. I can still see them, especially across my nose, poking through. That doesn't bother me, but I think medium might be a little bit of a stretch unless you're going in with a second layer. So there's that. But I can definitely see the difference between having foundation and no foundation, and it does even out my skin tone. So for coverage purposes, I like it. I'm not complaining. I'm just putting it out there that it's not fully medium straight off the bat. Okay, let's just keep the lighting like this simply because what's the point? I'm just going to turn it down anyways. Make sure that I have the coverage foundation, and I'm going to give that one a shake as well. And then this one I am just going to apply straight to the sponge, just one pump of it. There she is, and then dot that and get to blending. I will say there's a very light scent to it, but nothing overwhelming at all. It doesn't really come across as though they've added a ton of perfume to it, which again I think is really nice as well. Sometimes the scent on foundation is a little overwhelming and just makes me question, like, why? Like, who's sniffing your face throughout the day? I don't understand. But again, this one does blend out really nicely as well. And again, the shade match is right on. Like, I don't see any difference between the shades in the serum foundation and in the coverage. Like, granted, I bought the same shade, so I would expect them to look the same, but it doesn't always work that way when the coverage amounts are different. But in this case, I can't tell a difference between the two. I also really like that even though they're two separate products, they use the exact same naming system. Again, just that continuity just makes it so much easier as a consumer. All right, so I've got my magnified mirror in front of me so that I can really take a look and see what the difference is between the two, because honestly from the viewfinder, I can't tell any difference whatsoever. So, certainly have flakiness going on at the end of my nose. That's like specific to where my dryness is in winter, is like right here. Super attractive. But I will say on both sides of my nose, the foundation has actually blended out nicely, which is good. It's just the very tip of my nose seems to be struggling a little bit, which I'm not surprised by because it is just so dry right now. The coverage amount on the coverage foundation is definitely heavier than with the serum. I'm not surprised by that, that's the claim, but I can at least see the difference in there. especially on my nose. Like the freckles are definitely poking through over on this side of my nose, whereas over here, aside from that really large one that I have, I don't see any of the freckles. So the coverage is definitely stronger in the coverage foundation. So that's to be expected, but that's good. I'd be upset if it wasn't. Now, the big claim is that both of these foundations resist gathering in fine lines. I do have an abundance of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put on the concealer, and then we will go back and check to see how the foundation's doing around the nose and across the forehead, all of that. Just give it a little bit of time to find those fine lines and either resist or not. So let's go ahead with the concealer. I do find that this packaging is very helpful. I really, really enjoy that. What I end up doing is just putting a little bit on my brush, and just the tiniest amount is enough. So I go in with that and then just blend it out. Oh, fuck. I forgot to do the before and after. Son of a bitch. Let me say, I have incredibly dark circles, and it takes a lot to fully cover them up. If I really want like full coverage, I kind of have to go in with a peach corrector first because they are so intense. But I really enjoy the level of coverage that this concealer provides. I think it looks natural under the skin. It's not too matte. It's not dewy. It blends in nicely with the foundation as well, so you really can't see the start of one and the end of the other. So I really appreciate that as well. And again, I'm going to let it sit for a couple of minutes and then take a look to see how it does with fine lines, because again, it says that it resists creasing. I will eventually set my face and my under eyes with just some translucent loose powder, but for now, I'm just going to let it sit on its own and let it think about what it's going to do. Okay, so I'm so glad you guys can't see the position that I'm in when I do this, because I'm like basically on all fours leaning on my desk. Anyways, in the last like 5-6 minutes, I've been sitting here just like basically making faces at myself just to see what the products will do with the wrinkles that I can create by, you know, doing that. So here we are. Now in the corner of my nose, I can see that it has gathered a bit on both sides. So I did blend the foundation and the concealer in that area, so I'm not sure which one's the culprit, but they're both camped out in the corner of my nose there. Now under the eyes, there's some prime real estate there for wrinkles, and when my eyes are open, you can't see any problems. But if I just kind of gently pull down and stretch out where those fine lines are, can you see that it has gathered a little bit in there? I don't know if you can see that. I can't see it on the viewfinder, but there it is at any rate. And I can also see that in just doing that and leaving fingerprints in the foundation. So I definitely want to go ahead and set this with a powder because I don't think that it's going to self-set on its own. Now moving up to the forehead, there's a little bit of gathering going on in there, but nothing terrible. Like I can see it most noticeably just over here, but it's not terrible. But again, the fingerprints in the foundation. So it definitely could stand to be set for sure. Now in terms of how it actually looks on the skin, of course, anything in a magnified mirror is going to look horrific, truly. So in the magnified mirror, I can sort of see it sitting on the skin over in this area here. It's not nearly as bad as some foundations have been. It's not as noticeable on the coverage side, just on the serum side. If you saw my review of, which was it? The Revlon Light Cover Foundation, that one enhanced like pores I didn't even know I had. The Skin Milk from CoverGirl, worst offender for that. It just made me look like a dappled pony. This is not rising to that level at all. And then if I flip it over to like a regular mirror, I can't see any issues at all. So keep in mind, like, most people don't see you 10 times magnified, right? So I think, you know, from a regular normal distance looking in the mirror, I don't see a problem with it. I'm not upset with that at all. Even the little bit of gathering, like when I'm, like my mirror is just right in front of me and it's just on the regular setting. Even though I know that it has gathered under there, when I pull it down, I can barely see it. So while I show these up close like looks at it and while I look in the magnifying mirror, that's not real life, right? So just take it with a grain of salt. I do that just for the purposes of showing like what could potentially be a problem. But realistically, it's not a problem for me. All right, what I'm going to do for now though is go ahead and set my foundation with some powder, go about my day, and then like I said, I'm going to check in at least 8 hours. It is now 12:35 p.m. So later on tonight, I will do a quick check-in just to show you how it's worn throughout the day and then wrap this video up then. Okay, we are back. It is now, what time is it? 10:35, actually, exactly. So 10 hours after I applied my makeup, let's go ahead and do the check-in. So again, I have my side lights off and I'm going to lower this down. I always do that. I have a 50-50 chance and I always blind myself first. Okay, give it a chance to stop wiggling. Here we go. All right, so in looking in the viewfinder, I can't tell any difference. I genuinely can't. In looking in the regular side of the mirror down in front of me from like a normal distance, like this far away, I don't see any issues whatsoever. The tip of my nose has not done all that well, but it's super dry right now. I'm not surprised. Okay, let's flip it over and I'll lean in super close and I'll get really personal about this. All right, yeah, the magnified mirror. God, who invented this and what was the purpose of it? Okay. Let's take it from the top and work our way down towards the chin. So there is definitely pooling of the foundation in this area, which is very common for me. Now, looking at the fine lines, stretching them out a little bit, I do notice that there's just a tiny bit more on the side that has the coverage foundation than on the side that has the serum. So there's a little bit more gathered in those creases just on this side, but honestly, it's really not all that noticeable unless I'm actually pulling the crease apart, and God help the person that tries to come up to me in the wild and do that, because it's not going to end well. Now, around my nose, I'm not surprised to see that's worn away just from like everyday life, blowing my nose, rubbing my face, all that kind of thing. It always rubs away, so I'm really not surprised to see that. I will say it does not look like the foundation sitting on top of my skin at this point. And then working my way down towards my chin, I can see that there's been a bit of wear over here as well, which again, sitting like this, doing the thing, kissing my son, hugs, all that kind of stuff, I'm not surprised to see that there's some wear there. Now for the concealer, again, I had the concealer under both eyes. Okay, so if I'm gonna be like super realistic about it, I don't expect any concealer to look as good 10 hours after the fact as it did when I first applied it. I expect that there's going to be wear throughout the day. It's, I think, only natural to expect that. So in looking at this, if I pull it down, I can see that it has gathered a little bit in those fine lines. But honestly, like, they're lines. They don't naturally pull themselves down, or else they wouldn't be lines. So anything that's trapped in there, nobody's going to see anyways unless I pull it down. So I don't get too fussy about that unless it's like an abundance of creasing. And in this case, it's really not. There is still coverage there. It does look a bit drier than it did at the beginning of the day. Again, I think that's just natural wear. But there is still coverage there. Like the concealer hasn't just disappeared over the course of the day. So frankly, I'm fine with the way that it has worn. I think it actually looks good considering it's been 10 hours. Okay, I'm gonna get out of your face and back it up a little bit and give you my final thoughts. All right, so I have to say, I'm impressed with both of these foundations. I have been staring at my face for altogether way too long, trying to see if there really is any distinction between the two, and there isn't. They've both worn equally well throughout the day, so I really can't say that one is a clear winner over the other. It's really going to come down to the level of coverage that you're looking for. Frankly, for me, on a day-to-day basis, the serum foundation is totally fine. However, having said that, the coverage foundation isn't so thick and so heavy that I wouldn't want to wear it. So frankly, they're kind of interchangeable for me. So I'm really happy with both of these foundations. In terms of the concealer, I think The Ordinary has an absolute winner on their hands with this. I can't speak to it from an oily skin perspective or for somebody who has really dry skin. I forgot to say at the beginning of the video, but I have fairly normal skin, although it is a bit drier at this time of year than it normally is, particularly the nose situation. So just looking at how my nose has handled this foundation, if you have a lot of dryness in your skin, you might not like this one as much, simply because I have noticed that it didn't really blend out well over the tip of my nose, and it's certainly gone at this point throughout the day. So that's obviously a very limited area for me to base that on, but regardless, I mean, at $5 or $6 a bottle, it's not a huge investment if you do want to try it out. So overall, I am very impressed with these products, and the fact that they have a lower price point than most of the foundations at the drugstore, and yet they perform far better than most of the drugstore foundations I've tried, I'm really, really impressed with this. So I would say if you are in the market for a foundation, if you're in the market for a concealer, this is definitely one that I would consider trying out. And again, that price point makes it a fairly low risk regardless of the outcome. Just a little bit of additional information for any Canadian shoppers out there. On the Canadian Ordinary website, they do offer free shipping over $25. So you could basically get the primer, both of the foundations, the concealer, and still maybe have room for another skincare item if you're interested in that. So I'm really, really impressed with the price point on these products, especially considering how well they perform. So with all that said, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.